Thank you, everybody. And
why don't you resign? Please. The National Convention want you. We don't want you.
In a nutshell, a very bad night for the two big parties and a very good one for the Lib Dems.
Both Labour and the Conservatives have made losses, and there's been a clean-up for the smaller parties, particularly for the pro-Remain Lib Dems.
The Brexit backlash was clear in the thousands of spoilt ballot papers, and it wasn't just the Tories who suffered. Labour hopes of celebration at Tory losses instead became commiseration at their own defeats.
It seems as though, from what we've been told, that the Conservatives are not doing so well, and it could tell us about the wider picture across the country that the Conservatives may lose some seats across the nation due to the fact of how they've dealt with Brexit, and people are sick and tired of it.
A little bit tired, I'll be honest. We're going to be up for a long night, but I'm excited. I'm interested to see how it goes. There's no certainties with this election.
When you're having like 20, 26, 28, 30% turnout, that's not a realistic snapshot of what Eastleigh's like. So, I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes on.
I'm not confident. I think if I was being really honest, I would be very surprised if I won. I think it's been a hard fight, but the Liberals have a very good election machine. They fight very hard, they work very hard throughout the year, and they have the resources that we don't.
So the story's Conservative losing? Or
the story is Liberal Democrat winning, Conservatives trouts into third place on the council.
Okay. In the run-up to the local elections on May the 2nd, I was in Eastleigh to take a closer look at what local politics looks like on a ground level. I haven't taken much of an interest in local politics before, so I was learning as I went along. I spoke to 5 different parties and independent candidates: Labour, Conservative, UKIP, Green and Liberal Democrats. The Liberal Democrats have held the council for 25 years. I wanted to see what the parties thought they could do differently. I wanted to see if much could change. I wanted to see if Brexit had a factor in all this. With the Lib Dems being in power of the borough council for so long, what would your party or Conservatives do differently?
I think there are 2 main things which I think we would do differently, and 2 things which I think are vitally important to the people of not only Fair Oak and Horton Heath, but actually the borough as a whole. The first one is the local plan. As you probably know, Eastleigh doesn't have a local plan or an adopted local plan. It has something which is currently being reviewed by the independent inspector, who already is asking some very serious questions about flaws in that plan. The plan is many years out of date, and the policies that it puts forward are really completely unsustainable.
With Lib Dems being in power of the borough for so long, what would your party do differently?
Well, the main thing for me personally is we want to be looking at greater public engagement. We feel like the local area committee meetings don't work. The format of them, myself, I've attended in the past, Labour members attend frequently. There's a pre-allocated public participation section. Responses do not have to be given by councillors then, they can respond in writing. So obviously you're not engaging in a direct conversation there. It's a kind of sideways approach of, we'll write you a letter, not I want to be having conversations with people. I'd like to be doing forums. I think they're a great thing, that actually one of the few great things to come out of US politics is that kind of face-to-face style conversations. I think we start looking into doing that, it's something that we can really invigorate the process here in Eastleigh.
What would we do differently? Well, I think one of the things, and you'll see it on my leaflet, is that national policy impacts on local policy. So, for example, we've got a big issue with housing and house building, mass house building. I'm not sure we can improve the dustbin collections. I think the borough does a great job, but they've got a team that's been doing that for years. That's not a big issue. But housing policy and planning policy is being driven by national policy. Personally, I think it's been driven by the EU. I think there's a whole EU issue around housing, and I think we can do something about that. Clearly we can, because we're the only party that wants to leave. But the Lib Dems would have us in Europe, lock, stock and barrel. But what we're seeing across the southeast of England is a huge housing policy that's being driven by national government.
With Lib Dems being in power of the Borough Council for so long, what do you think your party would do differently and or better?
Sure. I mean, I think the Lib Dems have done some good work in the council, but because, as you say, they've been in power for so long, it becomes stale. They're sort of just looking for traditional solutions to problems that really need some kind of fresh thinking. So the Green Party, we're all about bringing new ideas into local government, involving the whole community, getting everybody involved in the decision-making process so that it's not being carried out by just a few people sitting in an office somewhere. Everyone's involved, making the decisions that will benefit them.
Why should the public vote for you?
The Liberal Democrats have got a great record in Eastleigh. We've kept council tax down, reducing it in real terms every year for 16 years, whilst we've protected services along the way. We think we're probably the only council in the country that's managed to do that over that period of time. At the same time, we've managed major investments in facilities like Places Leisure, the new sports centre at Eastleigh, and local facilities like the pavilion at Hiltonbury, the lakes that we're restoring at Hiltonbury, improvements to road corridors, for example, between Bishopstoke and Fair Oak. So lots of investment in the community, great services, and we keep in touch throughout the year.
Ray, with the Lib Dems having been in power for so long, what would you do differently, do you think?
Well, as an individual, there's not a great amount we can do as such, but what I'm aiming for is to actually create more of awareness and also basically argue against some of the Liberal policies that have been going through, dragging the rest of Eastleigh behind it, sort of thing. So it's more to encourage more people to stand up as an independent and have a voice in local politics.
I think Brexit is dominating absolutely everything. I feel very angry about it all, but I wouldn't say it's more important. It is a huge, huge thing that will infect everybody fundamentally, no matter what's decided, and maybe people see that as more important because it's going to have an impact very, very much long term in the future.
Do you think people are more interested in Brexit than they are local elections?
I think they probably are this time, yes.
Except we're all suffering severe boredom with Brexit.
I think it's very difficult to separate the two out because people are so disillusioned, and I think there's a lack of engagement with politics generally at the moment.
I think it's all wrapped up together, but yes, ultimately I think Brexit's more important than local elections, but I think, local national politics and Brexit are all tied up together.
Do you think Brexit is more important than the local elections, or is seen to be more important than the local elections?
Oh, well, they're comparable. I mean, they are as important as each other, and there's a knock-on effect, isn't there?
Another question, sort of tied into Brexit, do you think Brexit would have an effect on these elections or affect these elections?
I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that people will use this as perhaps a protest vote. Some people would look at local borough elections and say, well, yeah, why not? It's not really going to change anything, so I might as well go and have a vote, a different vote, just to make a stand, make as I say, a protest.
I can't help think it will. It shouldn't. Brexit is only something that can be negotiated at national level, at government level. Anyone saying at local elections, I can affect Brexit, one way or the other, are really just talking hot air. All we can do at a local level is represent the people we've been elected to represent on local issues.
The apathy party always wins at borough council elections. It's noticeable whenever we have a parliamentary election in Eastleigh, the Conservative vote goes up. We have a turnout of about 70% for national elections, and you can guarantee the Conservative vote will always go up and will probably win a seat or two. What happens then next year, we're back to 30%, 25%, 26%. 75% of electors in Eastleigh for local elections let the apathy party win.
It's my job very much to make sure local people do get involved in local democracy. Local elections matter in many ways more than national elections because your vote has a greater weight in a local election than it does when it's mixed up with 50,000 others in a general election. You can have your say about your place. Local elections really do matter, and I'd encourage everyone to vote on May the 2nd.
Why do you think less people turn out for local elections as opposed to national elections?
I think that's the golden issue really about all local elections. Firstly, I mean, it's something that the government needs to address. Eastleigh Borough Council needs to address it as well. There needs to be steps taken to make local government, people engage with it. It is important, but I think the ultimate thing, especially here in Eastleigh, is it's a foregone conclusion for some people that the Liberal Democrats are going to win. Something that we hear on the door a lot. Either it's I'm not going to vote because the Liberal Democrats will just win anyway. But a lot of times it's the Borough Council can't change anything. And that's something I agree with to an extent.
Traditionally, yeah, local elections do have lower turnout. I think people don't necessarily think that local government makes any difference to how people's lives go forth. The thing is that, it's all the power is concentrated in London, in Westminster. The Green Party's against that. We want more power to local government, and we want to get everyone involved in that. So I think more turnout would be a good thing. But at the moment, people don't necessarily see that it's going to make any difference, and we want to change that.
The thing that I've experienced over the past 20, 30 years is people are becoming more and more disillusioned with politics, political parties especially, and the fact that in the last few years around Bishopstoke, or Eastleigh is a thing, we've had so many elections that as soon as you actually go and sort of say to people, oh, there's an election coming up, you get the normal phrase of not another one.
Because people are apathetic. I think people have grown to be apathetic. Not surprising when they see what's happened with Brexit. If you voted for something and you don't get change, so I can see why people it would enforce that idea. But let's just hope maybe that this time in particular, we'll see a bigger outturn of voters off the back of the Brexit issue. I think that's going to be a key, and like we had the Euros in 2013, off the back of that, Hampshire, we elected 10 UKIP county councillors.
I think basically a lot of people have taken national problems and brought it down to a local level, which from the Conservative point of view, I do feel sorry for them that national policies have affected their campaign.
So it's a shame that people vote at a local election on national issues, but I can understand it. And it's not a coincidence that most people I spoke to have said the same thing. They are frustrated with Brexit, they are frustrated with the government and the delays, and that's obviously been borne out in our results tonight.
Is it down to people believing more in Lib Dems or less in Conservatives due to national? Is it a hangover, a spillover from national to
Well, I
to
think
local?
the sizes of some of the majorities are bigger than they might otherwise have been, but actually the turnouts tonight are pretty similar to any other local election year. So all of the talk and speculation that people were going to stay at home didn't happen. People did turn out to vote, up to 46% in one ward, and turnouts typically in the 30s. So these were a normal set of local elections, and it was the Liberal Democrats that came out on top in almost every ward with their best ever results against the Conservatives. The Conservative MPs here must be seriously worried tonight.
So do you reckon that is a spillover from national?
I think it's a mixture of both, but the key issue is that the Liberal Democrats have held their seats again, but actually with bigger majorities. So whichever way you look at it, the Conservative Party is in trouble tonight, and the East Liberal Democrats have been backed by the electorate again for the 25th year running.
12 out of 13 seats were won by the Lib Dems. 2 seats that the Conservatives went up for, they both lost. this, I'm being told, is unprecedented. So is this a spillover from national politics into local politics? I've been told all night long by candidates and party members that national politics has influenced local politics this time round, and people are just a bit tired with what's going on in Westminster.